In today's gospel, Jesus expels a demon from a man who is possessed. So what can we say about possession? Well, there's many ways people become possessed. Some people can be possessed by alcohol. Some people can be possessed by drugs. Some people can be possessed by pornography. And some people can be possessed by actual demons. Demons are real. The devil is real. This actually does happen. But in all of those instances of possession, the pattern is the same. The pattern is the same. It begins with a person with no real relationship with God at all. That's where it begins. The person has a spiritual emptiness in his or her life, has, for whatever reason, rejected church, rejected Jesus, doesn't want anything to do with any of that. But that emptiness is there. He tries to fill that emptiness. And unfortunately, he or she chooses to fill that emptiness with various things. Let's take the example of booze. You feel you're empty inside, you go out, you get a few drinks, makes you feel happy for a while. Then you do it again, and then you do it more often. It goes from once a week, down to a couple times a week, to once every day, until you reach the critical point. And the critical point is, it's not something that you want, it's something that you need, you feel you need. That's the key line here. You've gone from wanting something to feeling you need something. That's the tipping point for being possessed. And an alcoholic will tell you they feel they need it. And the same with the drug addict, or the same with an addict to pornography, and the same with someone being possessed by a demon. It just doesn't happen like that. It's a process. And so it's important to recognize when that process is there. Having a strong relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ is a wonderful thing to have and a great safeguard for these things. But the devil will use anything he can to turn us away from him and get us feeling that we need something else as opposed to the Lord and each other. There used to be an old TV show many years ago. It's called MASH. Who remembers MASH? Anybody here remembers MASH? Their later episodes, they tackled some serious problems. And one of them, the character played by Alda, he was struggling with drinking too much, way too much. And his buddies, his fellow doctors and nurses, were telling him, you ought to lay off the sauce. And he felt that he didn't. He was fine. And turns out, unfortunately, something happens, and it's a bad day for him. And he realizes, well, maybe I should give this up. And so he cuts it out. And of course, these shows sometimes would fast forward in the same show. And this is a few weeks later, or a month later, and they're having a bad day. Remember, it's a MASH unit. All these wounded bodies are flying in. They're performing all these operations. And when it's all done, they're exhausted, absolutely exhausted. They're done. They got all the operations done. The doctors and nurses all stagger into the bar. I think it was called Rosie's. And they stagger into this bar. And Alan Order says, boy, I really need a drink. And then he stopped. And he looked at the drink and he says, no, I don't need it. I'll come back later on when I just want it. So remember that. When you get to a point where you feel you need all these things to fill your life, and those things are leading you to some form of destruction, that is the beginning of possession.